Howdy, folks. Welcome to Mental Health Monday. Um, so my wife and I are doing this 6 weeks challenge to reset, um, reintroduce, and change the way we do stuff with food. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because I know this is an issue for me, is emotional eating. Um, this is kind of one of those things that falls into wellness, but it is definitely something that has to do with mental health because it's not really the best way to deal with the emotions that you're feeling. This is not to say that you cannot take comfort in food. But if this is your primary coping mechanism and you're having health issues such as diabetes and weight gain and other things, we we need to find something better to do. There are actual biological chemical things that happen in the body in response to stress and to different emotions, and these things trigger responses. And if 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 you're constantly going to the sugary, sweet, snacky foods, when these things are triggered, it creates it creates a cycle. It creates like a pattern response kind of thing. A lot of these kind of unhealthy stuff give you kind of they actually trigger the release of feel good hormones and chemicals and stuff in your body. And so if you're feeling emotionally down, or if you're depressed, if you're having anxiety, if you're feeling stressed, when you eat these things, that kicks off that feel good feeling in you, and that's how you're coping with it. Now, there are a lot of different things that you can do to trigger off these same kind of feel good feelings, chemicals and stuff. And food is by far not the best way to go about it. Some different things that you can do. Start educating yourself. Learn about the things that are like healthier. Like if you feel like you're craving something sweet and you decide to eat an apple versus having a candy bar, that is absolutely a better choice. Keep in mind, if you're having to watch your sugars and stuff, there is a lot of sugar in a lot of fruits. So maybe vegetables might be a better way to go about it. And there are vegetables that have kind of a sweetness to it. But again, anything that's having that sweetness is going to have some sugar in it. But there's a difference between healthier types of sugars, and artificial, high fructose corn syrup, processed sugar kind of stuff. So, you do need to get in sugars and carbohydrates and fats. The problem is that a lot of us are taking in way too much of it. So this is how we can address these things. So one of the big things that you can do to help with what you're doing is a food diary or a food journal, and write down what you're eating. Have a schedule. That's part of what we're doing with this reset challenge that we're doing, is that we have a set schedule of when we're going to have snacks, when we're going to have meals, and we have a list of things and stuff that we have prepared for what we are going to have for those snacks and for those meals. So meal prepping is another big thing that you can do to help with this. So if you've got these things prepped, if you've got these things set aside, when you're going to have your snacks and that kind of stuff, you can train your body to know when to expect to intake food. You can get it away from that emotional trigger and get it into a temporal trigger. So that is a big thing. Another thing that you need to do, though, when you're doing your meal prepping is pay attention to portion control. I know I have a problem. Sometimes it's like, oh, that was so yummy and it made me feel good. I want more, and I go get more. That's not necessarily a good idea with everything that you may be eating. So if you're having some of those things like pasta or something like that, sorry, getting used to this new thing, and just everything's kind of crazy. Depending upon what you're doing, taking those things in is it's not a bad thing. It's okay. But does it really mean that you need to go and get like that third or fourth or fifth serving of something? No. Have some. Don't overdo it. In all things, moderation. Like we were talking about, these unhealthy foods can trigger these dopamine responses and that kind of stuff. So there are different ways that you can kind of hijack that away from food. You can go for a walk. You can work out. Meet someone for a coffee. There's different kinds of things that you can do to trigger those kind of happy feel good chemicals and stuff in your body, rather than relying on the food. And this is not saying that you need to go to the gym, that you need to sit there and you need to do an intense workout or anything like that. Get up and go outside and walk around. It can be as simple as that. Just changing your environment, getting away from work or whatever it is that's stressing you out, leaving your kids with your spouse and going for a walk. All those different kinds of things. Or better yet, take the kids down, walk down to the park, turn them loose on the park, let them burn off their energy while you just sit outside and enjoy the fresh air. Of course, if they're going to fight and stuff at the park, then it's not going to really help you with the stress kind of thing. But I think you get what I'm talking about. So, there's these different things that you can do to kind of get your body kicking in that happiness feeling chemicals and stuff. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm still getting up earlier, getting going earlier, changing the way I'm eating and everything else. My body is, we just started this today, so my body is kind of kicking into that kind of stuff. Another thing that you need to be careful of, and this kind of falls into emotional eating too, is do you eat when you're bored? If you find that you are eating more when you're bored, because it's not that you're hungry, it's that you're bored, find something better to do. Play with one of your pets. Read. Do something different than turning to food for that. If stress is a big thing for you that is triggering your eating, finding ways to manage your stress is going to be a big help for that. Doing stuff like yoga or meditation, deep breathing, getting a workout in, all those kind of things can really help with managing stress. Another thing is that if you're not sure if you're hungry or if you're just feeling an emotional need to eat, give it a little bit. Because if you're hungry, it's not going to go away. It's going to get worse. And the other thing is that like what we're doing is we're having either a meal or a snack about every 2.5 to 2 to 2.5, maybe 3 hours. We're just taking in some stuff. And part of what this does is it helps kick the metabolism up and keep it running rather than spiking it with, you're constantly feeding your body. So it's a good thing. Another thing is if you know that you have issues with emotional eating, that kind of thing, get some support from your significant other, your family, your friends. Join a Facebook group or another kind of community that can help you with that. Having somebody who understands what it feels like when you're trying to change these kind of habits, having that kind of a support system is definitely something that is going to be beneficial. Um, Another thing that you can do is you can reduce your temptation simply by getting those kind of things out of your house, getting them away from where they're going to be sitting there right in front of you, having you feel like, oh, I just want to have this snack. I just want to eat this. Well, if you don't have it sitting there, um, and I'm not saying you should never treat yourself, but if you have to get in your car, drive, go to some place to get that ice cream or whatever it is, it's a lot different because if it's just a pure emotional thing, you may not just feel like it's worth it to go do it. So not having them ready at hand where you can just go grab it without having anything, yeah, just and then another thing is, don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry, because you'll end up buying a lot of crap. You'll end up going way overboard on the sugary, salty, not healthy snacks and that kind of stuff. So it's best to not be hungry when you're shopping for your groceries too, because that'll help you with that temptation and keeping that kind of stuff out of the house. Yeah, and another big thing is with the emotional eating aspect is, okay, if you're trying to lose weight, reducing your caloric intake is one thing. Depriving your body of enough calories to function is a different story. Okay, and this is one of the reasons that we're doing the every 2 to 3 hours thing, is because we're getting little. We have our meals. Like this morning, I made up some scrambled eggs that had sausage, onions, and cheese in it. And I seasoned it with a little bit of dill and that kind of thing, and that was really, really yummy. Another thing is, when you're eating your meals, slow down. You may feel like you're so hungry you just want to scarf it down, but okay, did you enjoy it? Part of what we're getting when we have these dopamine reactions and stuff from our food is it's because we're enjoying it. So if you're eating something that you're enjoying, slow down, take smaller bites, stretch it out. It does a couple of things. It lets you enjoy it longer, and it also gives your body time to respond rather than poof, I just inhaled everything. Now, I have a problem with eating that fast because when I was in the Army, there was a lot of times we didn't have any choice but to eat fast. So gonna have to retrain myself on that. But depriving yourself is going to increase those emotional triggers, and it's going to make it a lot more. It's going to make it a lot easier to stumble and give into that kind of stuff. Now, another thing with this, having those healthy snacks, carrot sticks, vegetables with some low-fat dip, having specific types of snack bars or snack shakes, especially stuff that is specifically geared toward helping to reduce cravings. In fact, the snack bar that I had today, that's one of the things it's specifically set up to do. It's formulated to with certain kinds of natural ingredients that automatically cause that satisfaction factor to kick in a lot more than if I said, eating a Snickers. And don't get me wrong, I like Snickers. I like candy bars, and that's one of the other things. If you can find yourself those healthier alternative snack bars that can give you that kind of, I need that sweet craving, that can fulfill that kind of craving that you're having, that's a good thing. So a lot of the ones that I have found are just as good as candy bars. but healthier, doesn't have all that processed sugar and everything else. So so having those healthier alternatives, nuts. One of my favorites, my dill pickle sunflower seeds. Yeah, but here's the other thing. Jessica's telling me that I go through this way too fast. So, serving size is about a quarter cup. So, when I go to have some, I need to make sure that I'm only having a serving of it instead of eating the whole bag. Because I like them enough that I could go through a bag of those sunflower seeds in less than a day without even trying. Where was I? Brain stopped. Oh, here's the other thing that you really need to factor in. Learn from your setbacks. Don't beat yourself up over them. If you find that you break down and you eat that whole pan of brownies, it happens. It doesn't have to happen, but if it happens, don't beat yourself up over it, okay? Because that's just going to trigger more of an emotional response and more of until your body gets into the better habits and better responses and triggers, it's going to just trigger you off to be going in after it even more. So you're going to have setbacks. Ain't none of us perfect. And keeping the food journal will help you realize when things are happening like that. Having a set eating plan so you can keep track of when you're eating and what you're eating can help with that. Another big aspect that you can do is just to make sure that you're drinking enough water. And then fiber drinks. This is a trick I learned from a good friend of mine who is a senior NCO in the Army. And that was one of the things he was telling me. He was like, look, when you're feeling hungry or your stomach is feeling empty, maybe you're not getting enough of the stuff that you need. And, fiber and protein are the things that are going to help make your stomach feel full. So I need to watch it because I'm shaking my table too much. So that was one of the other things that he encouraged was to have a fiber drink at least once or twice a day, because that will help you. One, it's healthy for your body. You need that kind of stuff in your body, and two, it's gonna give you a fuller feeling without all the massive calories and everything else. So having those like little snack cheese sticks. Having those little carrots or celery or something that you can just go to for your snack, that's what you need to do. That kind of stuff is going to help you immensely. So it can be very difficult sometimes trying to change your emotional or how you respond to certain emotions. And if food has become your major coping mechanism, it's time to find some changes. And that's part of what I'm working on. I am not giving up my love of food. I'm not giving up all the foods that I love either. What I am working on doing is changing my relationship with food. It's been an unhealthy relationship. I'm going to make it a healthier relationship. Some things doesn't necessarily mean I'm never going to have it again, but I'm going to have it a lot less often. But I'm still going to eat foods that I enjoy. I also enjoy cooking, so I'm learning a lot of new things about cooking and looking for different ways to have alternatives for that. So, this is all about changing habits. So, changing your response and dealing with emotional eating, stress eating, that kind of thing. It's all about working your way through finding new coping mechanisms that are healthier and making progress a day at a time on changing those habits, because emotional eating and stress eating and that kind of thing is an emotional habit. So it's one of those things. It takes 6 to 8 weeks of consistently working at it to change a habit. So this is part of what I'm doing. It's part of my journey right now, is changing that aspect. And I just wanted to share that thought with you. So tomorrow we'll be doing Tuesday's tips. Talking a little bit more about the functionality of some of the features that are found on cell phones these days and how they apply to photography. Another Wellness Wednesday, we're going to be talking about meal prepping. So you might not see me in my normal setting here. I might be downstairs in the kitchen actually doing some meal prepping. We'll have to see. And then Thursday's thoughts, of course. All of these noon Central Time. And then Foodie Friday with my wife Jessica. Friday at 4 p.m. Central Time. Look forward to seeing you all there. Go ahead and click follow if you'd like to get more notifications about when I'm going live and doing that kind of stuff. And if you're not seeing the live right here in red, then that means that you're catching this on a replay. So throw in hashtag replay down there so I know when you're catching it on the replay or if you're catching it live. And if you've got any questions about what I'm doing and the strategies that I have that I'm working on toward improving this emotional eating and everything else, drop me a comment. Send me a message if you don't want to put it in the comments. Let me know. I'd be happy to talk to you if it can help you deal with this same kind of issues that I'm dealing with. So until next time, peace, love, and photography. And remember, everything can make a beautiful image, including you. You guys have a great afternoon. Bye.